Next Chapter, Planning Your Retirement Journey, is engaged and back on. Welcome, everybody, to the show. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull, here with the host, the financial advisor, or a financial advisor, I should say, at Executive Financial Group, and that is Steven Sabo with, again, Executive Financial Group. You can get in touch with Steven and the team at executivefinancialgroup.com. You can go on their Facebook page. They've even got YouTube set up with audio versions of the show, and you can dial them up at 724-283-2806. And Steven, I'm glad to see you on here, and there's going to be some travel and such coming up for you here. So I'm glad you have time now to jump on with us. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great today, Doug. Yeah, you know what? We're getting ready for a bunch of travel. Actually, we just got back from seeing you guys down there in Atlanta, so that was a wonderful trip. But I'm going to see some of your other colleagues here coming up towards the end of the month in Puerto Rico. So pretty excited about that.
That's big. And then there's I forget, is it a bachelor party or... mixed in?
That was the weekend before I headed to Atlanta. So the wedding in Mexico is right before Puerto Rico. So yes, a lot of traveling. It's quite confusing right now.
2 advisor related things, and then 2 marriage related things too.
That's right.
We're happy to have that. Well, congratulations on all of that, man. We're glad you do it. But that does mean that, hey, your calendar in between, people can still get on that and do it while you can, because, gosh, there's going to be people checking in, and, you're planning your vacation, Steven's planning his. So there's an urgency to get talking to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we'd love to talk to people. And, I know people's calendars, like you said, fill up at this time of year. So, but there's still plenty of time on ours. So we're excited for it.
Come on and get it, folks. And that's what we're going to get to today, is the importance of a mid-year check-in with your advisor. All right. Because summer is crazy. You get going, fun in the sun, whatever you enjoy, whether it's mountains, whether it's beach. Yeah. And it's easy to forget to do maintenance on a lot of things in life, including your portfolio. And especially with the unpredictability of things, you want to make sure your portfolio is postured to handle some of that. In our last couple of episodes, we talked about 2 episodes ago how time moves so quickly, because before we know it, we'll be cold again. All right. And shivering in the winter. Time moves quickly, and that's why you should plan. And then we also talked about dealing with the notion of fear. And the lead singer of 3 Doors Down, his really rough cancer diagnosis, but his frankly very courageous approach to that, and how we can relate that to planning our finances too. Check out those past episodes of Next Chapter, Planning Your Retirement Story, on Apple, Spotify, some of the other podcatchers, and on the podcast page at executivefinancialgroup.com. Today, like I mentioned, mid-year check-in. A lot of teams have that. All right. So we're now in the thick of June, and the Major League Baseball trade deadline is at the end of July. Usually by the beginning of June, that's a good yardstick. About 2 months into the long baseball season, the teams kind of know, hey, are we good or not? Or maybe we're okay enough to maybe make the playoffs. What do we need to be better? And teams figure out if they're buyers or sellers at the trading deadline. And I'm going to relate that to mid-year check-in with your advisor in a second, Steven. But I just got to say, my poor Braves, your poor Pirates. The Braves are stacked up and should be doing great. The Pirates, it seems like the deck is perpetually stacked against them there. We were expecting them to be sellers, I presume.
Yeah, we are. Unfortunately, we are the Browns of the Major League Baseball this year. That's just the way that it's been going with the Pirates. It's a sore subject, but I still got to root for them.
I mean, they are your team. You got to still root, and there are some diamonds in the rough there. Hopefully, they could get things turned around. Hopefully, the Braves. I mean, the Braves have the talent, and they've had a few misfortunes, of course, but. Gosh, they need to get it turned around. I don't think the Braves are going to be sellers at the deadline, because they need to add to see if they can get into the maybe our teams, maybe you and I can start the negotiations.
There we go.
Between the general managers of the respective teams to get that going.
Get us on the phone here.
You heard it first right here on Next Chapter, Planning Your Retirement Story. Braves hopefully can plan for postseason, although we're like way out of it right now. But it, again, just like. Maybe you haven't talked to your advisor since Q1. Well, here we are. Yeah. We're getting to the end of, or I guess we are. We're in the middle of Q2, right? Yeah, is that right? Yeah, middle of Q2 in the 6th month. So, Steven, what's the importance of checking with your advisor mid-year?
Yeah, it's a really great time to check, because a lot of things have happened. In the beginning of the year, we dealt with taxes. From January until the end of April, everybody's concerned about getting their taxes done, and what can be done. Can we save here? Can we save there? And a lot of the time in January, it's too late to save for something that you're already about to be paying for. So there's a few things that can be done here and there, but for the most part, it's too late. So right now, after taxes are gone, hey, it's a great time to check in with us because let's start planning. Is there something that we can do now that's going to help you next year in your taxes whenever we go to pay them? Can we do anything? Can we do any sort of conversions? Can we change anything around to get you some tax-free income? What can we do on that end to plan for the future? Not only that, too, for the second half, I mean, there's a lot that comes at the end of the year, RMDs, whether you have to take withdrawals, charitable distributions, anything like that. So kind of meeting with us right now is a great time to sit down and hammer these things out. What can we fix that, kind of was hurting us on our taxes last year and plan for the future? And then what can we do to get ready, for the year end? Because it gets busy pretty quickly. Holidays, all that stuff is coming up. So it's people's calendars are filling up. So it's hard and you don't want to miss certain things or else you could be in trouble.
Well, no doubt that you could be in trouble if you miss out on those benchmarks too. Mm-hmm. Now, what are the consequences if someone just skips over the middle of your meeting part and then they maybe hear from you if they're working with you toward the end of the year? I mean, what's the consequence of waiting until November or early December to try to do some of these things that have a 12/31 deadline?
Yeah, we're human, and so we can't always be superhuman. I know some people like to think that, but we're humans just like anybody else. And sometimes, whenever you are trying to squeeze it in at the last moment, mistakes can be made. And we don't ever want to make a mistake, but hey, things happen. Sometimes the company that we're sending something to doesn't get everything that they needed. And then it takes a little bit of back and forth between, whenever somebody realizes it and when we can fix it. And sometimes it might be too late. Or companies themselves, a lot of them do have a 12/31 deadline, but we see more and more companies that say, hey, if you want a certain thing done, maybe an RMD, some companies are saying by December 1, it needs to be in. By December 15, it needs to be in, or we can't guarantee it. And so, they push those dates back. And, whenever you're rushing like that, mistakes can be made. And we never want to make any mistakes for clients. And we want to make sure that we're getting everything done in a timely manner. Our calendars fill up as well. And so it's tough to squeeze all that stuff in just a few days or weeks or, whatever it is.
You're probably, I'm pretty sure we did at the end of last year talk about the importance of a year-end check with your advisor. Right. So if you just skip over, a lot of people are going to be doing maintenance before the end of the year or right at the beginning of the next year, trying to get prepared. And, it's just harder to get on the calendar. And then everybody's traveling, and I say everybody, many people are traveling again, and then you're off for certain holidays and it gets really tough. So
that's right.
Take it now. And of course, another disadvantage, if you have a bunch of money due, one of these RMDs, it could be thousands of dollars. Would you rather take it on all at once and then pay the taxes, or do you want to take it in increments and absorb it that way, right?
Yeah. Again, now is a great time for tax planning for the future, the year ahead, and years ahead. Again, like you said, there's not a whole lot of time at the end of the year to make these decisions and do all these things. So meeting right now, is a wonderful time for us to sit down and say, what can we do now to reduce your taxes in the future? If you have a big RMD coming that you're going to have to take, well, should we do a qualified charitable distribution? Should we, figure out some other sort of tax plan in order to help you out so that you aren't hit with this big giant bill? Or, a lot of people don't need the RMD or don't want to take it. So, if we can figure out a way to help reduce that and make it better for the client, that's, it's important to get on that now.
Well, no doubt important to get ahead of the curve, just like with anything in life, waiting to clean the garage. Are we really going to wait another extra week to cut the grass? It's the same kind of thing here. Now, I want you to walk me through what your process is. You have a list of people you work with. All right. On your client list.
Sure.
How often are you in touch with people? Or if somebody's with a different advisor, phrase a different way, how often do you think they should be hearing from their advisor?
Yeah, everybody's a little bit different, but we like to stay in contact with our clients. We have a weekly email that goes out to them. And so a lot of the times that's just an email, it could be about whatever's going on, the time of the year, whatever it is, but it's just a touch point that says, hey, think about some of these things. Here's a few articles to think about it, read about it. And then it has a little call to action. Get in touch with me if you want to talk about any of this stuff. And it's just a reminder. So we have a weekly email that goes out, but we definitely, at the very minimum, we want to talk to our clients once a year. Now, we like to talk to them a lot more than that. I try and talk to clients at least quarterly, some clients more. If we're working on something, I might talk to them every month, every week, something like that. But we at least want to talk to them quarterly. We want to have a mid-year meeting or, phone conversation if you can't make it in, whatever it is, a Zoom call, something like this, where we can get face to face and sit down and say, okay, what's going on in your life? What's changed? Has anything changed? Do you need anything? How's the income? Do we need less? Are you building up a big savings? What could we do? So we like to keep in contact with people pretty frequently. Some people, like I said, they're okay. They're doing their own thing and they say, hey, Stephen, you know what? We'll talk to you once a year and we're okay.
Yeah.
But at the very least, one time a year.
For sure. I think that's a good reminder, that you folks need to be, if your advisor, just you never hear from them at all, maybe you're with a wirehouse, a bigger firm or something like that. At the very least, you need to be in touch. And if you don't have ways or you just pick up your phone and talk to your advisor pretty quickly, yeah, you may be in the wrong spot. So, or maybe you just need a second opinion. All right. And Stephen, you and the team could give that. If somebody calls for the first time, what is that first situation like? I want to make sure you explain this as much as possible because that's probably the scariest one.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, it's nerve wracking, especially if you've been with somebody for a long time or you've had an account somewhere for a long time. Making a change is hard. And, we want to make it as comfortable as possible for people. We, much like a doctor where we need to get some information from you. We need to learn a little bit about you and your situation and what you're trying to accomplish. What are your goals? Do you need an income? Are you looking to retire? Do you just need help with your investments? Do you need legacy planning or long-term care planning? These are all things that we touch on. And so we want to ask a lot of questions. We want to make sure that we know as much as possible about your situation so that we can help you the best. So we're really going to touch base on that, and then we're going to take it step by step from there. Okay, now that we know a little bit about you, we need to see some of this information. We might need some statements and a tax return and things like that. And, sometimes people can be hesitant, but in order for us to do our job the best, we really got to know this information. I don't want to tell you something that may interact or counteract with something else that you're doing that I didn't know about. And so, we need to know this information. It's important and it's private and we're never going to share it with anybody. But, we kind of take that as the next step. All right, now that we know about your goals, now we know where your accounts are and everything like that and what you're trying to do. And then from there, we're going to build a plan. We're going to work with you on income, risk planning, tax planning, estate planning, all these things. And then we'll present it to you. And you're going to know up front what it is and how it works and what it's going to cost you and all these things. But you're going to know up front and then you can make the decision. We think that that's the best way to go about it. We want you to feel comfortable with it. We have confidence in the plans that we do and what we do for people, but we want you to feel comfortable as well. So,
yeah, well, sure. Comfort is the main thing. And maybe you just need to see if Stephen Sabo and the executive financial team are the right fit for you. So you can call them up, 724-283-2806, or go to executivefinancialgroup.com. You can also find them on YouTube and Facebook. And
that's right.
Hey, go check out a few more episodes of this show. Maybe someone has sent this to you here and you can even have a better idea. But we have no excuse now not to know about someone before we meet them these days, Stephen, especially someone like you that has a podcast, right?
Right. That's right. Yep. Today in the digital age, if you can't find them online, you might want to head the other way. I'm not saying that everybody that isn't online is bad, but hey, we want you to know about us, like you said, before you come to meet us, see this face, see who you're working with, everything like that, and we want you to be comfortable.
He's like, come see this face, ladies and gentlemen. You know what's up. No, I love that. No, Stephen, that's a great point, though, is to stay on the cutting edge of the financial trends. That's or, right. What a market's doing 12 hours, in a time zone 12 hours ahead. You probably the fastest way to find that out is through the World Wide Web. So
right.
if you have a bad online presence, it could be a bad omen elsewhere. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for enlightening us on this and just this idea of the importance of the mid-year check-in. And we look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you, Doug. I really appreciate your time today.
No, you got it, man. Well, Stephen Sabo's financial advisor at Executive Financial Group. And again, get in touch with them at executivefinancialgroup.com. We thank you, Stephen. We also thank our producer, Rob Scott, on the ones and twos, getting this thing published and put out. And of course, to all of you for listening. Find Stephen and the team on Facebook, on YouTube, and all the podcatchery type places. And of course, again, at executivefinancialgroup.com. I'm Doug Turnbull. He's Stephen Sabo. And this has been Next Chapter, Planning Your Retirement Story. Have an excellent time, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.
The opinions expressed by Steven Sabo and guests on this podcast are their own and do not reflect the opinions of this podcast station. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Past performance cannot be used as an indicator to determine future results. Any strategies mentioned may not be suitable for everyone. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. Before acting on any information mentioned, please consult with a qualified tax or investment advisor to determine if it is suitable for your specific situation. This program is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to subject covered. Investment advisory services offered through Virtue Capital Management, LLC, VCM, a registered investment advisor. VCM and Executive Financial Group are independent of each other. Pennsylvania Insurance License number 670429. Any guarantees mentioned are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract. Steven Sabo and/or Executive Financial Group are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.